The hospital room had learned the art of waiting. Machines hummed softly like tired lullabies, and time seemed frozen around a single bed where a woman lay unmoving, her life balanced on thin wires and fading hope. No one expected anything to change that night. No miracle was scheduled. No prayer was loud enough anymore. Yet, in the quietest moment, with only a young doctor and a forgotten patient, destiny shifted its weight, and everything changed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing even when no one is watching, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The young doctor had started his shift already exhausted. His white coat felt heavier than usual, not because of responsibility alone, but because of the weight of disappointment he carried inside. Years of medical school, sleepless nights, and endless exams had led him here, yet he was still just a junior resident, overworked, underpaid, and often invisible. Senior doctors rarely noticed him unless something went wrong. Nurses passed him by without learning his name. Patients barely remembered his face. Still, he showed up every night, believing that somewhere between routine and struggle, his purpose would reveal itself. That night, he was assigned to the long-term coma ward, a place most doctors avoided. These patients rarely spoke, rarely moved, and often left the hospital in silence, covered by white sheets rather than hope. One patient stood out, not because she moved or spoke, but because of the whispers that followed her name. She was a self-made millionaire, a woman who had built an empire from nothing, admired in business magazines and envied in elite circles. A sudden accident had brought her here months ago, leaving her trapped between life and death. Since then, she had not opened her eyes. Her room was pristine, paid for by wealth few could imagine. Private nurses rotated in shifts, advanced machines monitored every breath, and yet something felt deeply lonely about the space. Flowers arrived regularly, then stopped. Visitors came frequently at first, then less, until days passed with no one sitting by her side. Money could keep her body alive, but it could not buy presence. The young doctor reviewed her chart like he did every night, noticing small details others ignored. The bandage on her arm had not been changed properly in days. It was a minor task, something usually delegated, something no one bothered correcting because the patient was unresponsive. Still, he felt uneasy. Infection did not care about wealth or status. So, despite being behind on rounds and knowing no one would thank him, he pulled on gloves and began carefully removing the old bandage. As he worked, he spoke softly, not to wake her, not expecting anything, but because silence felt cruel. He explained what he was doing, described the night outside the hospital windows, and mentioned how the city lights looked like stars fallen to earth. It was habit, something he had learned during training, believing that even unconscious patients deserved dignity. His voice was calm, steady, filled with a kindness shaped by years of being unheard himself. When he cleaned the wound, he noticed something unusual. Her skin reacted slightly, not dramatically, but enough to catch his attention. A small change in breathing followed, subtle but real. His heart skipped, though his rational mind warned him not to hope. He finished the bandage with extra care, adjusted the monitors, and was about to leave when it happened. A tremor ran through her fingers. For a moment, he stood frozen, unsure if exhaustion was playing tricks on him. Then the machines responded, numbers shifted, rhythms changed, alarms whispered instead of screamed. Slowly, impossibly, her eyelids fluttered. Not fully, not suddenly, but enough to reveal life pushing back against darkness. The young doctor called for assistance, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Nurses rushed in, senior doctors followed, and the room filled with controlled chaos. Tests were ordered, lights adjusted, vitals monitored. Amid it all, the woman's eyes opened again, this time longer, clearer. She was awake. News spread through the hospital like wildfire. A patient everyone had quietly given up on had returned. Specialists debated reasons, theories, probabilities. Some called it coincidence. Others spoke of delayed neurological response. No one mentioned the bandage, the voice, or the quiet presence of a tired young doctor. He stood in the corner, watching, feeling something unfamiliar rise in his chest. Not pride, not triumph, but a gentle confirmation that he mattered. Over the next days, the woman continued to improve. She could not speak yet, but her awareness grew. Her eyes followed movement. Her fingers responded to touch. When she was finally stable enough to be alone for short periods, the young doctor visited again during his shift. This time, when he spoke, her eyes rested on him, focused, searching. Something passed between them, not recognition of a face, but recognition of care. As weeks passed, she regained strength, memory, and speech. The world she returned to was different. She learned how many people had disappeared during her silence, how businesses had moved on, how quickly power fades when presence is gone. But she also learned something else, about a young doctor who treated her like a person when she was just a body to most. When she finally asked to see him, it was not out of obligation or curiosity. It was gratitude shaped by vulnerability. The meeting was simple. No dramatic gestures, no emotional display. Just a quiet acknowledgement that kindness had reached her when she was unreachable. The hospital, however, did not remain the same. Word reached administration, not because of headlines, but because the woman asked questions, about staffing, about patient neglect, about how often small things were ignored. Changes followed. Protocols were reviewed. Junior doctors were noticed. Care became less mechanical, more human. For the young doctor, life shifted subtly but powerfully. Opportunities appeared. Mentors emerged. His name was remembered. But the greatest change was internal. He no longer doubted the value of small actions. He understood now that medicine was not only about curing, but about staying present when outcomes were uncertain. The woman eventually left the hospital, walking slowly into sunlight she thought she would never see again. Her story made headlines, framed as a miracle of modern medicine. She allowed it, but privately she knew the truth was quieter. Healing had begun the moment someone cared enough to treat her as alive before she proved it. Years later, their paths crossed again, not as patient and doctor, not as millionaire and resident, but as two people shaped by the same moment. She invested in healthcare initiatives focused on compassion-driven care. He became the kind of doctor who never rushed past a bedside, no matter how busy the night. Just before we reach the end of this story, take a moment to comment below and tell us, do you believe small acts of kindness can change destinies? The hospital room no longer waits the same way. Somewhere, another young doctor changes a bandage, speaks softly into the quiet, and believes that even if no one notices, it matters. And somewhere, another life listens, waiting for the right moment to wake up. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of hope, or made you believe in the power of compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps these stories alive and helps spread kindness further than we can see.